Um, we all know the name of the webinar. That's why we are here, and we've done our housekeeping. And I believe that you have introduced yourselves in the chat box, right? Yeah. All right. So this is the table of content. Part one will be discussing HR definition, and part two would be breaking into HR. Part three would be finally working in HR, because I understand that some people who registered for this training, some of you have like experience already, so you just want to learn more about HR, and that's understandable. So quickly, I just want to go ahead and introduce myself. Some of you on the call I know personally. My name is Temmy Ayodele. I'm an HR professional with years of experience in human resource management, and I've worked across various industries. I've worked with export trading company, consulting, media, First Nations organization here in Canada, and more recently, I'm working in healthcare here in Canada. And I have a bachelor's degree in English and Literary Studies, and a diploma and a post-diploma in human resource management, both in Nigeria and in Canada. And I have gone on to also get some certifications for myself. I'm an associate member of CIPM in Nigeria. That's the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria. I'm a registered professional recruiter here in Canada. And I'm also a candidate of CPHR British Columbia and Yukon here in Canada, working towards getting my full designation. And additionally, I am the co-founder of Primvry Consulting, which I run alongside to my amazing husband, who's also on the call today to support me. And our services cuts across personal branding, career coaching, HR services, educational services. And in addition to that, I already mentioned that I'm based in British Columbia in Canada. And I'm also an advocate for Sustainable Development Goal 8, which is decent work and economic growth, which is also why I'm here today, right? So quickly, let's just go into the training objective. So for the purpose of this training, my name is Temmy. So usually I go by Temmy. So let's just go into the training objective. The objective of this training is to provide insight into HR profession, key roles, and career paths, share tips on how to break into the HR field as a newcomer, equip participants with essential knowledge and resources for success, answer common questions about HR certification, job search, and skill development. So that's what we'll be discussing in the training. So at the end of this training, you must have learned about HR as a profession. You must have also learned about the various career paths. You must have learned how to break into the field of HR as a newcomer, and the essential knowledge that you need to navigate this career path. So quickly, what is human resource management? Based on the responses that I got from the form that you filled, so I kind of put that chart here. So I got 61 responses so far on the form, and 39.3 people said they have experience in HR. 60.7 said they do not have experience at all. And looking at the years, so 35.3 also said they have 0 to 6 months experience, and 8.8 have no experience at all, and 35.3% have some experience. So let's move into the definition of HR. There are so many definitions out there, and I know that some of you kind of have an idea of what HR is based on, working in organizations and whatnot, for people you know that are working, and for some of the things that you've read. So HR refers to the people who make up the workforce of an organization. So technically, you own a small business, whether it's a large organization, the people that work there are the human resource of that organization. So they are the ones that make up HR in that organization. And I also put here, it is also the department that deals with employee life cycle within an organization. So you understand that you employ people, you are working with people, people have needs, people have motivation and all of that. So how do we manage this? So that's when HR comes into the picture. So HR is that department that is responsible. And when we talk about employee life cycle, we talk about right from when that person right from when that person applies to your organization, sees a role and then applies. At that point, that person is an applicant. And then when you call that person for an interview, they become a candidate. So if they get that position, they go on to become an employee. So it is essential to make sure that the recruitment process to how you put out the job description that people see and all is managed properly, because it is telling on your brand, it is telling on the organization itself. So you want to ensure that the candidate has an awesome experience throughout that process. So after that, when you offer them the job, they then decide to say, okay, do I want to work for you or I don't want to work for you, right? So it's a two-way thing. And a candidate wanting to work for you and then you offering a role. So if they see that, oh, okay, the whole process wasn't so smooth, it's kind of like a red flag, and also they don't eventually become an employee. So back to this, the department that deals with an employee's life cycle within an organization. Now, what is human resource management? The strategic approach to managing people in an organization to maximize their performance and contribute to organizational goals. So it's interesting that in times HR has become like more prominent, but HR has always been it has always been in existence, but maybe not the term HR. Going back and looking at like the evolution of the HR function itself, initially like back in the 80s, it started as welfare, whereby mostly it was the era of industrialization, and people were just like factory workers. People were like factory workers and they were just working and working and working. And essentially, at that time, employers saw employees as labor. Factory workers were just seen as, just come and do the job and just get done. It was all being done, no breaks, nothing. You come work 6 days a week for 12 hours. So um they were essentially like tools to employers. They saw them as tools, not as human beings, right? So as at that era, you could not reject a job from an employer. If an employer gave you something to do and you resisted, you could be thrown in jail. But looking at that era to where we are today in HR, you can say that there's a whole lot of difference in it now. A whole lot of things has changed, and this is because certain laws started to be in place, and they started looking at it that how can we motivate employees, and then okay, employees needs, they are linked to their performance and whatnot. So it went from that welfare part to personnel management, and then we are here today, HR. So HR is now a more strategic function in an organization, because you then look at it that it's not just enough for me to bring people into the organization, but also how do I manage these people to ensure that they are engaged on the job so that they do not leave the organization? How do I ensure that I motivate these people to do the job? How do I ensure that, okay, as they are contributing to the organization, the other aspect of their life is not suffering, right? So that's how we got to HR today, and HR being like a strategic performer in the organization, a strategic department in the organization. Why do you think HR is important in an organization? Right? And like I said, a whole lot of you like may have like ideas. Okay, HR does this, HR does that. I've had people that say, oh, you could just hire and you could just fire, right? And I feel like when I see people speak like that, they speak from like the layman understanding, because I cannot be in that organization and trying to be a backbone to it, and they are just seeing it as hiring and firing. There's a lot more, there's a lot more than that that HR does for like the organization. And I just put together some, but I did not want to exceed this certain slide, right? So HR helps with smooth running of day-to-day operations regarding human resources. So for example, you're having let me just use myself as an example, right? So especially if you are dealing with like core operations, and I remember that I can start my day and say, these are the things that I want to do. Or I want to put out this job posting, or I have this job posting in place already. I want to review the applicants. I want to review who has applied to see that they are qualified. And then suddenly you get a call from like your operations manager to tell you that, oh, there's been an issue at another there's been an issue at another facility, whereby maybe um a co-worker harassed their other co-worker. So you then know that, okay, that's like an HR function, and then you have to deal with that situation immediately before it spreads out. So day-to-day running, like, okay, attendance, absence management, all of those things, even though like most of the things that happen in the organization, the line manager owns the process, but HR helps to facilitate the process, because you are more knowledgeable about these things, right? And the manager, some of them may not be knowledgeable. They have technical skills for the role that they handle, maybe not necessarily people skills. That's why you went on to say, okay, I'm going to study HR. Okay, I'm building a career in HR. I'm doing this and all of that, to understand like all of those things, to help managers like make the right decision as it pertains to people. Because you agree with me that people are complicated, especially when it comes to managing adults. It's very easy to manage children, even though children can be stubborn, but you know that if you shout on children and say, oh, sit down there, oh, do this, oh, do that, and all of that, so you would know that, okay, they will listen. But an adult, you can't force an adult to do what they don't want to do. You only have to motivate them and help them see the reason why they should do it, right? Moving on, HR helps an organization to attract the right talent. So basically like recruiting like the right candidate, the right fit for the organization. HR helps with aligning HR strategy with organizational goals. So this is more likely when you're dealing with like, performance management kind of thing, how can we align this person's performance to our strategic goals in the organization? It's not that the organization is into HR consulting, for example, and then your employee says, okay, I need you to pay for my training. Now to go and learn tailoring. How is that going to boost my organization, right? So you have to ensure that, okay, maybe the employee is saying, I think I want to take a course in like consulting. Okay, I'm going to see like, okay, this can be beneficial to me as an organization if I support you. Yeah. So HR advises the organization on best and acceptable practices to avoid litigation. So to be honest, I know that I've been privileged to like read on cases and all in Nigeria, but you would agree with me that some laws are not completely enforceable in Nigeria. But I happen to be based here in Canada, and I've seen a lot of organizations who are in deep debt, who have had lawsuits and all pertaining to practices. So you have to ensure best practices simply means acceptable practice. Like, what's the acceptable standard to do something? And so you, as an HR, the labor law guides you. Here in Canada, the Employment Standard Act, the common law, human rights. There are a lot of laws that guide you, but in Nigeria, if you have like the labor law and then your company's policies and probably like the state policy can guide, the state laws can also guide how you form and develop policies for your organization. Spearheads workforce planning, right? So basically you are in charge of seeing how employees move in an organization. An employee might be retiring next year, say, or let's just say we're in 25 January, right? An employee may be retiring in December. So you are already seeing that, okay, there's an anticipated gap. Like, okay, this employee is retiring. And let's say they've worked in that organization for years and they have so much knowledge. I know that when this person retires, they are carrying a lot of knowledge with them. So what are you going to do to fill them? It's not that when it is now November, you now be running around to look for a candidate to fill that role. Do you want to backfill for that candidate so that whoever comes in on time, who gets into the organization on time, can start learning from that person, and also that it just smoothens out the whole process. So workforce planning is that you're anticipating the things that can happen when it comes to people. You while taking note that, okay, people will definitely leave the organization for career growth. Some people will be terminated, right? Some people will be hired, right? So people move for different reasons. Some people will leave to different cities and all, and that's the human nature. You cannot stop people from moving. You just have to ensure that you have things and you have practices in place that will enable those structures when that happens. So typically, these are some of the things that HR does in an organization. And there's so many other things when you talk about managing, like the benefit of employees. Health and safety is a function that I've seen that people have put under HR. So there are a whole lot of things that HR does for like the organization beyond the hiring and the firing, right? So yeah. So moving on, we'll be going into career paths in HR. So if you're in HR, you can either be a generalist or you can either be a specialist in HR. So what does this mean? An HR generalist wears all caps in HR and handles multiple functions within HR as it pertains to an organization. While a specialist is a narrow aspect that focuses on an area within HR. So usually for generalists get to work in like small companies, while specialists work in like larger organizations. And why is this? If you have a workforce that is say 20, have a workforce that is 30, you have a workforce that is 50, you'd be like, okay, looking at the ratio, one person will be able to wear multiple hats of, hiring, handling the payroll, handling like the reward structure, doing multiple things in an organization. But as the organization gets bigger, so does the function become bigger. Now I work here in Canada, and the organization that I work with, we have more than 7,000 employees in like different locations. I work in the labor relations department. So in just my department, we're about 50 people. There's recruitment, there's talent acquisition, there's compensation, there's disability management, there's health and safety, and there is not just one person handling that function. There are a lot of people handling like different portfolios. So the larger the organization, that's the more tendency that you would be a specialist in that organization. But for very small organizations, usually generalists wears the hat, compliance, everything. Just name different things, just all those small aspects. And to be honest, if you're just starting out in HR, or you're just new to HR, it is most likely that you take on the role of a generalist. So for small organizations, they would usually, when they're interviewing people, they will usually like to say, okay, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? Can you do that? So they want someone who has like, a little bit of all those things embedded in one, which can be overwhelming, but is also a good learning point. I started out as HR generalist in like the organizations that I have worked for before, and it made me have the extensive knowledge that I have in different aspects and different functions of HR together. So, but as time goes on, I'm like, I want to specialize, right? So, and I've looked at it, I've looked at my terrain, I've looked at what's obtainable here, and how I can. So I'm like, okay, I want to specialize in this field, which is labor relations. And luckily, I'm in labor relations already. So I'm now looking at it. Okay, how can I build myself in labor relations? And it's funny that there was a time I was talking to my mentor, and then um it was through my CPHR association that we got that mentorship. And I told her, okay, I chose you because I saw that you have extensive knowledge and whatnot and all of that. So she was like, and I'm like, this is what I want to do. But she was like, do you have like experience already, like generalist experience? So you cannot just drop into like specialist role. There are some specialist roles that you cannot just drop into. So you have to have like other aspects that you have learned about HR. So technically, you can either be a generalist or you can either be a specialist in HR. It has to be one way or the other. So looking at placing it side by side. So I mean, we've already discussed generalists. Like, so what are some of the roles that a specialist takes on? So talent acquisition, recruitment specialist. So when you are seeing things like, okay, we are looking for like a recruiter, or we are looking for like a talent acquisition specialist, that's a specialist team. So you're going to be handling the talent acquisition function. You're going to be in charge of sourcing candidates, sourcing talent, either through LinkedIn, any channel you want to use. So far, you're able to sort out the best candidate for us. Then compensation and benefits specialist. So those people that you disturb in your organization. Oh, and this there's a deduction in my salary. This. I worked overtime on this day. I did not get paid. This XYZ, oh, my leave, my special leave, this and this. Those people are the ones that are in charge of compensation and benefits, and all of those, your HMO, health insurance kind of things. Those are the people like in charge of it. Then when it comes to like labor relations usually work in unionized environments. So environments that the employees are unionized. So HR manages the functions of like dealing with the unions, maintaining relationships, and so it basically those organizations are covered by collective agreement. So you have to you as an HR, you are representing like the employer, while the union represents the employees. So you guys have to make sure that there's that understanding and the interpretation of the collective agreement is done properly to ensure there's fairness, and everything that has to do with grievance and whatnot is handled by labor relations specialists. So HRS specialists, you see, I'm sure that some of you have heard about HRIS, but for people who have not heard of it, it's HR Information Systems. So this is like the software and the HR software that manages like functions within an organization. So you look at recruitment, benefits, health and safety, um, um all of those things that are somehow administrative tasks, database management. So the HR information system keeps it. But I'm sure that if you go online and you check and all of those things, you can actually find some examples. We have Workable, we have Seamless HR, we have ADP, we have UKG, name it. There are a whole lot out there, but you just have to ensure that whichever one you are recommending to your organization, or whichever one you want to implement, just look at the operations of that organization and then see how that can support the HR functions properly for you. So an HRIS specialist, they are the ones that are, in charge of managing the database, so to say, anything that has to do with that database. If you have complaints, inquiry, or something about like the system, oh, you are not able to upload this, I'm not able to do this, is that person that handles the function. The learning and development specialist. So I think this is pretty much straightforward. People that are in charge of, your learning in the organization, your growth per se. So maybe your learning and development specialist says, I feel like we should have like LinkedIn learning for our organization, so our employees can, better themselves. Maybe short courses like, communication skills, interpersonal skills, all of those things. Your L&D specialist handles that. So DI specialist, DI simply means diversity, equity, and inclusion. So this happens in Nigeria, right? We have that, but for people abroad, this is more prominent because immigration wise, there are a lot of countries. There are a lot of third world countries. We are migrating to all of these America, Canada, US, Australia, and all of those. So those people have to look at it that you know, how can we manage like the DI initiatives within an organization so that even though, let me say, for example, in my organization, let's say in my department, I'm the only black person on the team. So, and you know that obviously our cultures are not the same. We did not grow up in the same places. So, how do you make that person feel like they belong in that organization? How do you make sure that they are not excluded? How do you make sure that, despite being like of a different race and all, they are still able to get the best performance out of them? So, all of these things are kind of like the DI specialists, and there are also other aspects like of HR specialist roles. But usually, when you see this, that when you see these titles, that this person is to handle a very specific function within an organization. So I had two people type questions in the chat box, which I'm just going to answer before going back to my slide. So Merit asks, are there specialists that handles or manages conflict in HR? Yes, there are, and those are the labor relations specialists that I explained. It could be labor relations specialist, or it could be employee relations specialist. Now, the labor relations specialist, anytime you hear things that has to do with labor, so you have to understand that you are dealing with unions in that organization. But for employee relations, so labor relations technically means the relationship between an employer and the union, right? Now, those labor relations specialists that work in HR handles conflicts and manages and resolves grievances, for the employer with the union. Now, for organizations where they are not unionized, they don't have the presence of labor there, you have the employee relations specialist. So the employee relations basically means the contract between the employer and the employee. So that's a personal contract. So for large organization, you now have that function of employee relations specialist. So it is that person that handles conflict and resolution between employees in that organization. So there's the employee relations specialist and then there's the labor relations specialist. But bear in mind that the two of them handle similar functions, but labor is more wider because we're dealing with unions. Unions are involved. There are three parties there. There's the employer, there's the employee, and then there's the labor union. But for employee relations and employee relations specialists, they are just dealing with the employer and the employee. So I hope Merit, I hope that answers your question. Then I have another question from Taiwo. The DEI and labor relations function isn't very clear. Could you shed more light, please? Okay, sure. So the DEI function, let me start with that. So DEI, like I said, stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So there's now a B added to it, DEIB. So the B stands for belonging. So let me break it down. Diversity. Diversity acknowledges that there are a lot of people working in the organization with different forms of diversity. Knowledge, for example. Knowledge is kind of like a deep diversity. It's something that you do not see on the outside because you would acknowledge that even though we are handling the same function in that organization, we do not necessarily have the same experience. I may have more experience, you may have lesser experience, or vice versa. So that's a form of diversity. One, then you can also see diversity in, like, say, culture. Oh, I'm from Africa, you're from Asia, you're Caucasian, that's very clear diversity. Then men, women, age, those are very clear diversity that you can see. Then equity has to do with providing the same opportunity for people in an organization, right? So you're looking at this from the angle. So let me just talk about this from an angle in Canada, for example. So in Canada, for example, there are four major designated groups. Those four major designated groups: number one, they are women; number two, people with disability; number three, we have visible minority. Visible minority are people that you can see, that that clearly this person is not my race. So for example, I'm walking on the streets, they are Canadians, and I'm walking. You obviously know that I'm not a first generation Canadian, right? I have my origin from Africa. And the final one is indigenous people. So indigenous is like pertaining to Canada and whatnot. So those four groups, you are not allowed to discriminate against them. At every point in time, you have to provide equal opportunities for them, as the case may be. So now, when you talk about, let's look at it from the angle of somebody who has a disability, someone with a disability. So let's say they have issues with hearing, right? And they are working in the organization, or let's even leave they are working in the organization. You schedule an interview for people, and usually here in Canada, you see job ads that are advertised, and they'll say, if you require any form of accommodation, please let us know. So why they are doing that is, accommodation is not, say, housing issue or anything. If you require any adjustments in that your interview process, let us know how we can help you. So for example, you invite somebody, someone has applied, you don't know that that person has a disability, right? They have applied to your organization, and then you look through their resume and it looks like what you're looking for. You invite them for an interview, and then they say, oh, they reach out to you. I have an issue. I'm reaching out to you for accommodation. One of my ear, I can't hear properly with that, right? So I would require using a hearing aid. So you cannot say that, oh, you cannot accommodate that person, like, because they don't one ear is not functioning. You cannot accommodate them into your organization, or maybe when you employ them, they will not hear you well. You are not giving that person a fair ground to use their skills, right? So equity is more about providing the same opportunities, providing equal opportunities for people to thrive, right, within an organization. And lastly is inclusion. Inclusion, like I said, is like making people feel included in the organization. It's not just enough to hire me because it feels good to have, like, an Asian on your team. It feels good to have somebody with a disability on your team to showcase, do that picture. Okay, we are diversity, we take all of those kind of nice to have things. It's not just but are you making that person feel included by the initiatives that you have in place? I'm going to give you an example that somebody shared with me a while back. So the person was like, years ago when he came to Canada, you know, we have like the credit score system and whatnot, your credit card and everything. So as at that time, the organization he was working with, they used to provide training. They used to provide training to individuals, but you would go on and pay for it with your credit card, and they'll reimburse you. So if there's a training of, say, 1,005, someone who has been longer in the system and has more credit score and has access to higher fund will be able to take that training, compared to me that I just came into the country, whereby the bank just gives me 500 as a form of test. So that automatically places me at a place where I'm not even able to compete with you, because I'm never able to have the money to take that course to start with. So that's like an example. So the DI specialist to ensure that, these barriers, how do we, cut it in an organization? How do we ensure that people have access to equal opportunities and, they are included, they feel like they belong in that organization? So for labor relations specialists, so like I already explained in my previous question, has to do with unions. When you see unions, when you see organizations that have the presence of unions, typically you would see HR, who are labor relations advisors, who handles any grievance for like the employer. They represent the employer, while then the union has their own. They have like, their shop steward representing the employee in the organization. So anything that has to do with an employee in that organization, ensure that you try as much as possible to involve the union in it. So those are like the kind of things that labor relations specialists that they handle in an organization. So Taiwo, I believe that you now understand the two functions properly, right? Okay, so let's get back into our slide, into parts.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm just trying to, the slide is stuck. Okay. Okay, so part 2 is breaking into HR. Now, how do you break into HR? And I know that it can be somewhat difficult, because you're going to see companies that are putting, oh, we need people with experience. We need people with 1 to 3 years experience. We need people with 3 to 5 years experience. So how then do I get into it when I don't even have experience, right? And then you're like, will I ever have this thing? And I think it's also similar with other careers, right? You will find out often that it's people who have been able to build their experience that are like thriving, and then you that you're just trying to get into it, it is a little bit difficult for you. So I've put together like ways that you can get into it. And number one is education, right? So for education, we have a diploma, we have bachelor's degree, we have postgraduate certificate or diploma, we have master's. Now, diploma goes between say 1 to like 3 years. So there are some schools that have like, HR that as a course that you can go and study like diploma. And for bachelor's degree, there are schools that have that. They have it human resource, but it is under like the business administration. So business administration is then split into 4 different functions, where you have HR aspect, have the finance, you have marketing, and I think supply chain is the last one also. So you have that option as well. Well, you have a postgraduate certificate or a postgraduate diploma, which is usually after your bachelor's degree, but before your master's. So for somebody who, let's say, you're trying to get into like a master's in HR, and which can be maybe somewhat difficult for you, or it is highly competitive. So you can go on and take like a postgraduate certificate of like 1 year, which is kind of like a top up to your bachelor's degree already, just to boost your chances of getting that master's program. And finally, we have a master's program, usually 1 to 2 years, that you can take. And at the master's level, you find some really specialists, some that are specific to like specific HR functions. Um, like that master's degree is for that function, right? So it's up to you to say, okay, I want to take this. Now, I don't have PhD there, because I believe that um to be honest, I believe that that is high, and usually with PhD, you just have already have some experience and the likes before you can do all of that. So moving on to HR certification. So there are different certifications, and it has to do with, you have to look at the country that you are in and what is obtainable in that country. So I've put together some which I have listed here. Some of you may be familiar with some of these ones, but for the sake of, I'm not going to be explaining all. And I believe that majority of the people who are joining on this call are from Nigeria. And I think one or two people are joining from Canada, right? So I'm going to be explaining just three of it. That's the CIPM, CPHR, and HRCI. So CIPM, as you all know, is Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria. I am an associate member of CIPM. CIPM is specific to Nigeria. So if you want to practice HR in Nigeria, you can look into getting certified in Nigeria through CIPM. Now you'll find out that there are short courses and all of those small courses that you can do all around. And one of the things for me, as an example, when I wanted to do my certification, and when I was just leaving school, as at that time, I had a senior colleague who I know was doing HR from school. So I reached out to him. I'm like, oh, I'm in camp, and I'm in NYC camp, and there are a lot of people coming up. You can take this, you can take that, and all of that. So I asked him, like, what's your opinion on this? Like, what do you think about this? And he was like, see, don't do all of those ones because they're just training. CIPM gives you certification. And you know what certification does is, like, it adds that extra layer of confidence for you and for any employer that wants to employ you, because to an extent, any employer that wants to employ you will say that, okay, this person belongs to a body, and that body has governing rules that they know that to an extent they hold the members to that certain standard, right? So that's what it does for you. So CIPM, there are different routes by which you can become like a member, or which you can get your certification. One is membership by examination route, and that is membership by experience. So the membership by examination route is one that is typically popular, especially for people who are coming in without any experience in HR. So they evaluate say you have a first degree already. So they evaluate it. Did you finish in, like, did you take certain courses? What faculty did you finish from? So it determines the level at which you start. There are like 6 levels. So it determines the level that you get into it, and then start taking the exams from there. They also have, like, centers where you can take tutorials and whatnot and all of that. If you want to take tutorial, all well and good. And if you say, I'm just going to read this on my own and just go for it, and at the end of it, when you pass, get that professional license to practice HR, and it also comes with a professional diploma. So that's that for CIPM. I'm moving on to CPHR. CPHR or CHRP. CPHR is the body governing, like, all HR professionals in Canada. Aside CHRP is specific to Ontario because at some point they broke out of CPHR, right? So, but for CPHR, each province has their own. So I'm a CPHR candidate of British Columbia and Yukon. So that's one province. And to get your designation, you also have to work your way through experience. But to become a candidate, you do not need experience. So you either take the National Knowledge Exam, that's the NKE exam, to get your candidacy. Then after getting your candidacy, you can now use 3 years experience if you have a bachelor's degree combined with 3 years experience, advisory experience, to get your full designation. Or if you do not have a bachelor's degree, that you have a diploma, you have to have 8 years experience put together with a diploma of advisory experience before you get your full designation. And the NKE can also be waived, in the sense that if you schooled in Canada here, and when you are done with school, you achieve a minimum of 70% overall, you can get that national knowledge exam. It's usually very difficult. You can get that national knowledge exam waiver because you've gone through school, you've gone through their system to get to where you are. So that's that for people who are in Canada. Then SHRM is specific to the United States, and some of these bodies, they're in partnership with other countries. So I know that for CPHR, if you get it, you can decide to apply for SHRM and get that SHRM designation by association, and vice versa. If you have SHRM, you can get the CPHR own too. But usually people in Canada usually get the SHRM own along, just because they are side by side. Canada is not America. So if you peradventure you find a job in the US and you just have that SHRM own, you're able to get other opportunities. Then CIPD is peculiar to the United Kingdom. They also have, ways to get into it. And I've put the website here, which this PPT, I would share it to people who have attended this webinar today on the WhatsApp group. So HRIC is globally recognized. And if you're in Nigeria, if you're in Canada, anywhere that you are, you can do the HRCI certification if you are able to do it, because then you are exposed to some global practices across the globe, and what's happening, which is of course much more expensive than say CIPM, right? So they have aspects to based on your experience and where you're coming in. They have APHRI. I think that's for people who are just getting into, who don't have any experience but want to get the certification. Then we have PHRI, people who already have some kind of experience, they get that. Then we have the GPHR, that's like the senior people who already have like years of experience. So the exams differ. I mean, obviously, if you are taking a higher one, then the exams will be harder. So the higher the certification, the harder the exam. But certifications, they are nice to have, right? So I would just say that, just don't be heavy on certification in the sense that, oh, you don't have so much certification, but you don't have experience to show for it, right? So it's more like it's not balancing. Oh, you have so much of this certification, but there's no experience to show for it. So it's usually not balancing. So if you can as you're getting your experience, you're getting it alongside with your certification, it makes so much sense. And you find out that it even makes reading easier for you, because you just be like, oh, these are the things that I do on my role every time, so let me just do it. And so we have CPHR. This is for Australia, right? That's the body governing HR in Australia. So on top of this, if you now say, okay, I want to be a specialist in whatever role that I am, there are some specific ones as it applies to your role. But in Nigeria, I know that if you have like CIPM, that's okay. So for me, I have RPR. RPR is Registered Professional Recruiter in Canada. So if I want to work, say tomorrow I want to go and do talent acquisition, I have my RPR to back it up. There's CPP. There are role specific ones which you most likely see in like say countries like US, UK, Canada, but Nigeria with your CIPM or HRCI, you are good. You are good as far as that is concerned for them, right? So moving on to getting the relevant experience for HR. So I've highlighted this: getting hired into HR, internship, volunteer work, your current organization, job shadowing, contract or part-time roles. Now I will explain all of this, right? So getting hired into HR. Some people, by luck, you understand, they are able to put in their CV and attend interviews, and they got the role. I once saw somebody that said, she went for an interview and it was for internship, and when she got there, like they were like, oh, you are just too good, we can't keep you as an intern, we'll give you the HR role. Excuse me. That's how they got into HR, right? So that happens, But that is not so common because usually people are looking for people who already have value and people who can set the ball rolling, right? So, but if that doesn't happen, you can look to internships. There are organizations that offer internships, in like specific roles, right? So some HR internship roles. I know that we have that a lot abroad. Nigeria too, there are also organizations, that kind of internship. And if you know like people in organizations, just speak to them and say, this is what I am looking to do, right? And I just need you to please, if this is what I'm looking to do. So if you know like somebody in the organization, those 1% of the 1% in the organization, kind of, just tell them this is what I'm looking for an internship or, just to learn. Sometimes it's not about like money, even if it is paid and unpaid. But usually I used to prefer if organizations pay their interns, right? It makes a whole lot of sense. And the volunteer work. So oftentimes people frown at volunteer work because they believe that, oh, I'm just doing free work. But you don't know where that will get you because sometimes you find out that the people who you're even volunteering for, these people have connection. So I'm going to give you an instance. I'm going to use myself. I have a lot of examples, right? So I'm going to use myself. So I attended a training that's during COVID. It was online, purely online. So I just decided that, that COVID time, I'm going to maximize that opportunity and make the most of it. Like, let me attend online training and all of that. So I attended this HR training that was put together by one of my who's now my mentor. So immediately after the training, I know that, oh, at that training, we're like oh, you're set, you need to select the class captain, blah blah blah. And luckily, I knew two people already before that training itself. So I decided, oh, nominate people. That's how some of them set me up. We sure did the whole training and all of that. So I then told the organizer, I'm like, see, thank you so much, that beyond what I learned from there is beyond the amount that I paid, and I know for a fact you understand that. So please, if there's anything that you want to do, please just know that I'm available to volunteer for you and everything. And I was like, okay, no problem. So I kept on volunteering for him, like managing the group and doing all of those things. It's funny that the last job that I got before I relocated abroad, it was through him because he then sent me, he saw that advert and then he then sent it to me. He said, I'm sending it to you because this is in your city. So he sent it to me and I did apply and I got it. So if I had not been there, right, or if we've not had conversations, that wouldn't have happened. So volunteering opens more doors compared to, people just saying it's free work. Just do the one that you can do, and just try to be diligent. And you don't even have to wait till you volunteer for an organization. Now, there are a lot of HR professionals on LinkedIn, on several spaces who are doing big things. And, they need people to manage their communities. They need people to, just do little things and just put together things because they are very busy. You can reach out to those people, all those big names that you see on LinkedIn. You can reach out to them, to say, okay, um, this is what I can do for you. Don't present yourself fine. We all know that you are looking for something, but sell it as if you want to give them something, you want to offer something to them, right? So let them see that and let them see that, okay, so from there, you develop wonderful relationship from volunteers that can open several doors for you, several doors. So it does not have to be when you volunteer with an organization, a big organization, a big community. You can even volunteer with individuals, right? Then your current organization. So I put this there because people who are already working but are not in the HR function can leverage their current organization. You know what I want you to do? If you're already working, just if you are sure that this is the path that I want to, just go speak. If you have an HR, go and speak to your HR and say, I am looking to get into HR, this, and this. I feel this is what I want to delve into, and all. How can I leverage this organization to do that. You understand? Go there, and if you don't have an HR, oh, very sweet for you. You get just go and meet whoever you report to, or a top shot in like your organization and all, and tell them this is what I'm thinking. Don't just go that this is what I'm thinking. No, you understand? Begin to see those loopholes that if we have HR, this is how it should have been. Things as simple as keeping employee data. You can start and just say, oh, um boss, I feel like we should have this. You get, it's not as if you have complete knowledge of it, right? I feel like we should have this in place. You get, oh, our employee files, I feel like we should do this. Or okay, they are looking for somebody, okay, I want to hire somebody, and that, oh, the hiring has just been scattered and everything. Oh, maybe I can design a process. You get, research about it, design something. From there, they begin to look at it that, okay, it's like this person. I know, maybe, okay, maybe that's maybe like, okay, maybe this is what Merit really wants to do. If you get, so let's give Merit this opportunity. Merit, carry on whatever ideas and all, share it with us. Let's see how we can buy into it and everything. So as you are doing all of that, you find out that as you are doing all of those things too, be doing some little pieces of training on the side. I'm saying, oh, I attended this training, this is what I did, this. I believe we can incorporate it this way, or we can do this way. Before you know, you find out that you're already shaping and you're already changing their mind. And they will say, okay, how can we help this person? Right? So you can also leverage your current organization. I know that there's somebody here who has done that, who I've spoken to in the past, and she is now, working in HR in the same organization. Moving on to job shadowing. So job shadowing especially again is if you have an HR in your organization, you have somebody who is doing that function, go and meet them. Please, can I help you with this? Now, I know that they may be reluctant to share information because they are dealing with sensitive information, but you have to place yourself in a place whereby you know that that person feels confident to give you certain tasks, to know that, okay, if you come across some information that it's not your business to have that information, as a matter of fact, but you stumble on it, how would you handle that information? That you run out and say, I just saw XYZ salary. Oh, I just saw that XYZ is this. As an HR professional or looking to get into HR, you need to have that level of decorum. Like, you need to be able to maintain confidential information, because they are going to have access to a whole lot of things about people, a whole lot of things. And I, for one, even here abroad, you have to, sign waivers and sign a whole lot of things that I'm not going to access information that does not concern my role. So if it does not concern you, you have no business with that information. So you have to make them see that level of confidence. Say, okay, if you can give you this little and you're able to handle it confidentially and you're able to handle it properly, well, can I help you with this? Like on the job shadowing, can I learn one or two things from you? So even if they are not sharing very sensitive information with you, they might say, they might be giving you other tasks, that you can learn something from. So job shadowing is essentially like shadowing your HR in the organization and all. And the final one is contracts or part-time roles, right? So yeah, you can get like part-time roles, which may not be so common in Nigeria because everybody's looking for full-time role, and companies, kind of have all the time full-time role. But if you're able to get a part-time role, all well and good, just use that to start. Contract role, use that to start. And who knows, before your time is over, they may say, we are looking to give you a full-time role. We are looking to extend your contract. We are looking to give you a permanent job offer instead of a contract role with us. Let's move on to transferable skills. So you find out that a lot of HR skills, there are technical aspects of HR, but a whole lot of it also depends on soft skills. You see how how you go and talk to your HR and you say, oh, HR didn't even take into account my feelings, blah, blah, blah. All of those things has to do with some of the soft skills that a person possesses. Now, for hard skills, for technical skills, it's easy for you to learn it. if you have the right tools, if you have the right exposure to experience, you can easily learn. But you see, soft skills is going to be hard because it comes alongside your personality. So what are some of the transferable skills? You have communication skills. As an HR professional, both written and spoken communication has to be as articulate as possible. It has to be as clear as possible. You don't want to pass out information to people and then they are wondering like, okay, no, this is, you meant A, and another person say, no, this is what you mean. Another person say, no, 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 you guys are interpreting wrong, this is what it means. So you have to be ensure that the communication is as simple as possible, and that as much as you share, people understand, both written and spoken. Interpersonal relationship, you have to, build that relationship with people, acknowledging that in the workplace there are people that, hi, 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 all of that, but also noting it at the back of the mind that even though I smile with you, right? I'm your HR, my job is my job. Is I'm not going to bring sentiment into this, right? So if you have done, say you have done something bad and I have to, give you a query, I have to, sadly terminate your employment. I just have to do, you need to know that it's nothing personal. This is a job. So you have to create that boundary, and problem solving skills. You have to, have that, be able to solve um problem, think on your feet, and while you're thinking, ensure that you're not going against any law in place that can come back and bite you or backfire. Then analytical skills and data analysis, be able to interpret data, be able to show trends, even things as little as, attendance, for example, attendance management. Look at it that, oh, this person has been coming early, and all of a sudden you are seeing that pattern drifting, and you're like, okay, what's with this person? We need to, start having that conversation with them as soon as possible. What's happening? Is this something that is happening with your health, or something you understand? Like, okay, let us know how we can help you. So you have to be able to, monitor that trend. Uh, Pardon me, administrative skills. Then a lot of I saw that a lot of you put that you have administrative skills, just generally understanding how to, manage things and all. And, with time you shift it to people. And if leadership experience, if you have leadership, all well and good, because as an HR, you have to be able to, command some presence, because the least you want to happen is, you're talking and then people are not respecting what you're saying, so to say. You understand? You're not trying to lord it, but just have that, that leadership and being able to put yourself together and all. Then finally, active listening. That active listening is being able to listen to people. So you're just there. A manager has come to complain about an employee. The employee will come and say their own. Just try as much as possible, to keep a straight face and listen without say, because any face you make at that point, that person can say, oh, you're taking sides with my manager. But the manager also, I already know that you take sides with the employees. Just try as much as possible to maintain that decorum and listen actively to them without picking any sides, but by looking at the facts presented in front of you and using it to assess the situation. And let's move on to skill mapping and audit. So now you want to get into HR. This is a very important aspect. So skill mapping or audit is essentially taking inventory of your abilities, your strengths, the technical skills, what you already have, the tasks that you do, what software do you use, look at your job description, how can I leverage that to, check the experience that I already have. And there are 5 steps to do this. List out all your current skills, both soft and technical. You have to be 100% honest with yourself when you are doing this. List the current skills that you have, identify core competencies for that desired role. So let's say you have a desire to be, say, get into HR, right? And maybe you're looking at entry level like HR assistant. Go and take like job descriptions, go on Indeed, go on all these job boards and or look at it and say, okay, what are the top 5 skills that an HR assistant possesses? Look at it and write them down. Look at the most common ones there, write out 5 of it, and then look at these 5 of it. What do I have out of them? You understand? Look at it. Say if it's communication skills are good, you already communicate on your work. Okay, let me look at that. And then you now look at it. My communication skills, am I a beginner at it? Am I an intermediate? Am I an advanced? Am I advanced? Is my communication skills, up there? Then identify those gaps, be honest with yourself to say, maybe I am not so much of a great communicator and I need to take courses to improve myself. Then have that action plan in place and see it through. Now, I just have like a simple template here, right? So current skills, say you've already done that audit and you find out that, oh, I have these skills to your left, that's the current skills. Then you now go look at those HR skills and say, okay, these are some of the soft skills that are in place. And you rate yourself, oh, communication advanced, I'm good. Confidentiality, I'm not there yet. You understand? Then you look at the technical skills as well to say, okay, you look at the technical skills and then say, you get, these are the things that are needed for the role. How can I get the skills? And you look at your proficiency level. If it's zero, look at how can should I take a course? Should I engage a mentor? Should I go, for coaching? All of those things. Should I attend events to boost that, skills? Have that development plan. And like I said, be honest with yourself. And the elder people can deceive you, but you yourself you cannot deceive yourself. So be honest with yourself and just write it down and what you need to do. And then you find out that I haven't done this, dedicate like 30 minutes, 1 hour to doing skill audit so you can know what you have in place as a person, to know if you're even employable, to know what skills you can leverage to get what you want. Now let's go to job search strategy. For job search strategy, I have, crafting a compelling HR resume, preparing for HR interviews, networking with other HR professionals, and I put on common places. So crafting a compelling resume, essentially, now that you are saying that I want to get into HR, start ensuring that your resume starts to tilt and starts to look like it. You understand? Go to all the things that you've done after you've done your audit, after you've done your skill audit. You understand? Look at your tasks, look at some of the job duties that you do as it relates to, okay, this thing, does it relate to an HR function? Those are the things that you should start putting on your resume. You get? And that summary part, make it, let it speak like I'm now looking to change my career and this is what I'm now looking for. I'm preparing for interviews. If you have an HR interview, please read very well, prepare for it. There are even people that even if they don't have the experience, but when they go for interviews, that they've read. And if they ask that, okay, when it comes down to practicality, I haven't done this, but I have read it. You get? And you can clearly see that clear distinction in HR interviews. It's that you have it or you don't have it, right? If you can say, okay, I've not done this thing before, but I have read about it. And from my findings, this is how to do this. This is how to do that. This is how to do XYZ, which can help you. Then network with other HR professionals. It's very important. Go on LinkedIn, network with other HR professionals. And if you see events, attend those events. They would help you become a better person. You meet there are HR professionals that I've met online that I have not even had the opportunity to meet in person. I did not have the opportunity to meet them in Nigeria, but we talk freely, we share things. They ask for ideas. Okay, this is what I'm dealing with currently. What will you suggest? Have you dealt with this? Now, uncommon places, looking for jobs in uncommon places. Don't just stop at Indeed. There are other different job boards that you can check for jobs. Go to the search for companies. I want to work with this company. Go to their website, search that website, for jobs. Search other places. It's not only Indeed that is available for job. It's the most popular, but it's not the only one available. Just find companies. My last job with a Canadian company when I was working in Nigeria, it's funny that I came across that job on Instagram. Yes, I was just scrolling and I found it there. That's a very uncommon place that somebody will never place an advert, right? But I found this there and I was able to get that job. So at this point, we're supposed to take like a 5 minutes break. Um, but if we take that break now, I'm not sure that we'll be able to hit that 2 hours that we're looking for. So I think we should just go into part three, and if we're able to finish on time, right, then you have the rest of your few minutes back. Part three is now finally working in HR. Now you're in HR. Some of you, like I said, are already working in HR. Some of you are already working in HR, right? And some of you, after this, if you take it seriously, you'll be able to, get that desired role. You'll be able to land your HR role. So I put together some soft skills and some technical skills that HR professionals should possess. Number one, soft skill, confidentiality. I've mentioned this before. Confidentiality is very important if you're in HR. There's an example that a friend shared with me that there was one HR then that wanted to send a memo out and then accidentally, sent the company's salary out. The most honorable thing that that person did was just to resign at that point because it was a disaster. And I'm sure that after that, the company would probably, try to find a way to, do some, salary changes and all so it can balance. Because now that you already know how much your manager is earning, and then you're looking at your manager, so you're giving me all the work you're enjoying, all of those kind of things. Communication skills is important. You have to ensure that whatever memo, anything you're passing out is properly understood. Conflict resolution. You are dealing with people, and people will always have conflict. They will always have from something minute to very huge, to respectful workplace issues, to bullying, to harassment. It's going to fall back on the HR professional to salvage and manage the situation. Emotional intelligence. You have to be able to read emotions because people don't just show up, they come along to work with the different emotions, whatever they have that is going on in their personal lives. They bring it to work as well. And all of those things, you have to be able to, learn how to manage and help people and problem solving, learn how to solve problems, think on your feet. You have to, read, have to consult with other people, even if you're not able to do it, you understand? Just, that problem solving ability is something that an HR professional should possess. And for technical skills, HR strategy and workforce planning. Initially, at the beginning of the webinar, I talked about, workforce planning and being strategic. You know that, okay, people are bound to, there's attrition is bound to happen. Like, people are bound to leave the organization for one thing or the other. So how do you plan to ensure that, the organization does not suffer while people are leaving or while they are coming in? Then talent acquisition and recruitment. If you want to work, I think most of the time this is a crucial part of like any HR person's job, especially generalist. You have to recruit people, you have to attract people to the organization. You have to post a job ad for people to, get them. HR compliance and employment law is very important. That is the bedrock for any HR professional. If you don't read anything, ensure that you are conversant guiding with the laws guiding that country. Nigeria is labor law, right? Then go and look at other countries as it applies. Read it. What does the labor law say on this issue? Okay, read on, cases that have been won in court and look at all of those things. All of those things will guide how you're able to solve situations in your organization, how you're able to develop policies and procedures to ensure that they meet best practices. HR technology is an important aspect. As the organization begins to grow, you agree that, okay, we cannot continue to do paper-based administrative activities. Those things will take up time. So, look at things like introducing a software that can help manage processes. Then, for recruitment, say applicant tracking system that would help you sieve out applicants at the initial stage and all of those things. And finally, change management. Change management is a huge thing. And it's funny that it's huge, but we all go through one process of change or the other. Whether you say, for example, you just got married, you just had a child, you just bought a car. That's a whole lot of change process. You used to take a cab to work before, but now you have a car now. So you have to consider how you'll be fueling that car. You have to consider, okay, repairs for the car. So that's a change management that we go through every day in our life. So now applies to like the workplace. Change management. People will not be used to your function. People will always want things to be bent to their will. But you have to be able to manage people's expectation. You understand? My job as an HR, I used to say, it's not to make you happy, it's to ensure that you're engaged on that job, right? Then, if you're already working in, moving on to the next slide, you're already working in HR, what should you be doing? How can you position yourself for higher roles? How can you position yourself to be a better HR professional? Number one, be teachable. It's not the one that your manager will tell you, correct you and all, and you'd be frowning and all of that. The manager is going to look at it that you are hardworking, but I don't think you are ready for higher roles. Be teachable, always be open to learning, right? Then be business savvy. Now this has to do with having business acumen for any organization. I remember there was an organization that I worked with, and we had to engage like external HR consultants as Deloitte, and one of them came, you know, stayed with us for like a while we did those things. And we're talking, and I was trying to explain like the operations of the whole company and all. And then she was just looking at me like, how do you know so much? I'm like, if I don't know so much, how will I be able to, help managers achieve better things? There are many HR people that say they work in organizations, but if you sit them down and ask like, this is your organization, how do they generate money? They cannot answer because they don't know. So you have to be business savvy. You have to develop that business acumen side for any business. Not just be passionate about HR, also be passionate about what the business does. Then begin to think strategically. This is important because chances are that when you get into HR newly, you most likely be like entry level role, be hit with basic administrative roles like keeping employee files, managing the HR system, posting jobs, all of those minor things. But gradually you have to be able to shift from that administrative function to being more strategic, right? You have to ensure that you are thinking far than just posting all of those jobs and all those are administrative. You have to be able to show that ability that I can think strategically. Volunteer to take on more tasks in your organization. And recently, like I said, that I am in the labor relations department in my organization, and our collective agreements will expire like in the coming months. And we are already trying to do essential services planning, putting things in place. Peradventure, there's a strike. Now I've gone on to reach out to like my managers, like, oh please, I am interested in this. If there's any tax around that. And my manager reached out to me like, oh, we're looking for somebody to help us with the database and everything. It's not as if I'm idle though. I'm like, okay, bring it. I will do it. I want to learn it because I know that what I learn cannot be taken away from me. What I know cannot be taken away from me. And I've been able to learn it. So volunteer to take on more roles. You see, when you see all those roles that maybe somebody in your organization, I'm tired, like I cannot do this, I can't do this thing at the moment. Oh, bring it, let me help you do it. As you're helping that person do it, you're learning something. Then network internally. It's not, when people say, oh, attend events and all of that, people forget that you can actually network in your organization. Network with the leaders in your organization. Network with the big people in your organization. Those people will mention your name in rooms that you are not there. If they're having board meeting, they will mention your name in rooms that you are not there. You understand? They'll be like, this person, I've seen their capacity. I know what they can do. They will push you forward. So network internally within the organization that you are in. Then discuss your development plan. Always be open with your managers, your leaders, people that that are already doing that thing that you desire in that organization. Go up and meet them and say, please, how can I learn this thing? Share tips, share tricks with me that can help me build myself, that can help me become a better person. Oh, I've seen that you took XYZ course. Is this course worth it? Can you tell me one or two things? Maybe, it's something that I might do. So discuss your development plan with not just with anybody, people that have your best interest at heart, and your managers, people that can push you and give you that push. Moving on to building a successful career. So you want to ensure that you are not pushed back in HR, right? So how do you do? Stay on top, stay updated with trends in HR. There are a lot of things happening, in the HR space. AI has been, disrupting so many things. Read about it and all. Just stay updated with trends. Stay updated with things that are happening. Keep abreast of employment laws. Some laws will change, not because maybe they weren't good in the past, but they'll look at it. This past practice probably was not the best way that it was handled. The government will bring in new laws, and you have to update yourself, you have to update your policies, you have to also let your managers know that these laws have changed. You cannot do it like the way you used to do it before. So stay abreast of those laws so that you can help your organization become better. Then invest in continuous learning. There's no training that I have taken today that has not been of good use to me. If I did not use it immediately, I would use it in future. So invest in continuous learning. If you can buy things that if you can buy things that you crave for, then I believe that you can also invest in yourself. No matter the amount, I used to tell somebody there's no amount that is too much for me to invest in myself, because I know that it's not a waste. It's not a waste at all. There's nothing I lay my hands on that's not going to come out good. So I just keep learning. Expand your professional network in and out of the organization. Expand your professional network. Like right now, like after this webinar, I would love to connect with a lot of you. Whoever is on LinkedIn, you can go on LinkedIn, search me out, add me, and tell me that, oh, you attended the webinar. Like, okay, fine. And have that one or just a little chat. That's how you build and expand your network. Then build your personal brand. I say this because there are a lot of people who do things, but they are winking in the dark, right? So people don't know that you have that ability. People don't know that you can do a lot of great things because you've not been able to create that presence. You've not been able to say, there's a way that when they mention someone's name, you know that, oh, this person is known for this, right? This person, just like when you see celebrities, they mention one celebrity's name, and oh, that person is an actress. That's because they built that brand. People know them with it. So build your personal brand. Don't just be everywhere. Let everything you do scream what you want to do, so that people know that when it comes to these matters, this is the person you should go and meet for such matters. Then finally, this should be my last slide. Yep. Finally, so I've put together some things, some websites that you can, go to. They publish newsletters, they publish news. AI HR is a very good one. HR Dive, Forbes Human Resource Council, then SHRM, that's the body for HR professionals in US. They also bring out news from time to time. So, just stay in touch. Don't be out of reality. Stay in touch with what's happening in other countries as well, to say, okay, how can we use this to shape and align with global practices? Then HR Reporter is specific to Canada, where you can read it up. A lot of things are happening. Canly, you can go on Canly and read like cases, how cases between employers, employees, cases between employers and union, who won, what were the deciding factors, how they won, just to better yourself, better your function in the organization. Finally there's workplace.ca. So workplace.ca is also like a website where most of them have newsletters that if you subscribe to them, they will be sending you their newsletters as it's released to your emails. They will send it to you. So go on there and read up what's happening and all. So all of these things, like I said, I'll share this slide with you, right? So I just want to use this moment just before we go into questions. I'll stop sharing my slides shortly just to, encourage you. Now that you're here today, you've learned one or two things. When you go back and decide, is it HR I want to do? Look at these things and look at what applies to you. Look at the transferable skills that you have to see how you can, leverage all of those things. Then let's move into questions. There's anyone that has any question?
Okay, so speaking on the certifications gotten during service, that's
Mm-hmm.
NYSC, I got
Yeah.
one.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I got one, and then they said they gave me diploma in human resource management, certified personnel manager. So are you saying all those? I thought I have certifications, and then are you saying all those are actually just trainings and not really the real thing? Because I just
Okay.
saw that it is actually not from the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management manager.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
does that mean
So,
the certificates are not valid?
so what you got is like from a training. So it's not a certification.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you how I've been able to, recognize certifications. Certifications are not cheap. They are not cheap at all. They are not cheap.
Mm-hmm.
If you've done
Mm,
CIPM, you will know. CIPM is expensive. If you've gone on to get any other one, you will also know. And also because it's just the way, when you go to those websites, if you check that what was given to you, go to their website, when you see it, you'll be able to see, the governing body, you'll be able to see the things, the rules and everything that guides it. So what you got during your NYC was probably like a training. But everybody is free to name their certificate, whatever it is. If it's to them, if it's a
mm,
diploma from their institution. So it's from their institution, right? So, but as far as CIPM is concerned, it's not valid. It's not valid, so to say. But you've been able to probably learn one or two things from there, which is good, right? Which is good. But as far
yes.
as certification, it's not you probably did not get it from like the governing body, right? So
Okay.
yeah.
I
Does that answer your question?
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know. Aside CIPM, is
Yeah.
there any other body that you can recommend aside outside CIPM? The other ones, is there any other body that you can recommend
So since you are
aside the
in
international bodies? Yes, is there any other local one that you can recommend that is quite not the money now, that is quite flexible, that you can
okay, so
easily just like, yeah, I don't know if you understand my question.
yes, I do understand your question. So what I'm going to say is that in Nigeria there's just one body, and that's CIPM, right? So, like I said, I've mentioned it when I was going through the slides. Like the good thing is that Nigeria is a lot more flexible, like some of the rules, because if say I go back to Nigeria today and I want to work and I have CPHR, they are going to look at it like, okay, they are bringing some global perspective into it, right? So HRCI, like I said, is widely acceptable, is very popular in Nigeria, but as far as in Nigeria, CIPM currently is the only governing body for HR professionals in Nigeria.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Because you see a lot of people advertise, come for this training, come for certifications. You just be
Like I
confused.
said, you need to, when I see people's resume, you find out that a lot of them lump, training certification together, and that's because they don't know the difference. But I, for one, would tell you today the very first thing that you can use to know a certification um differently from a training is certifications are not cheap. With any country, they are not cheap. Go and check HRCI. I think the minimum amount to do that is about maybe 400 or 500 US dollars. So just so all those like little pieces of training that you see. It's nice to have, say for example, like when I wanted to learn about payroll in Nigeria, I went to like, a consulting firm's website and I saw something and I was able to learn like from that training. I was able to learn like payroll. So it's nice to have, say you just want to build your knowledge and all of those things.
So can we actually get employed without certifications?
Oh yes, you can get employed without certification. Say, I know a top shot HR professional in Nigeria who does not have a certification. They've been able to build experience. So like I said,
Okay.
is that it's not just enough for you, to have all the certification and then not have any experience. It's not a balanced place to be, right? So the very first thing you
Mm,
should look out
yeah.
for before, considering certifications are like, icing on the cake, nice to have. Because, to an extent, when an employer wants to employ you, they then look at that, okay, you belong to a professional association. So if anything, they can hold your association and they know that your association will hold you accountable if you do anything you get. So, but the cake itself
Yeah.
is, the experience that you get. So you can actually get
Okay.
hired without the certification. But what sets you apart is when you now get hired and you want to be able to speak those HR language, understand it, then you can now get your certification alongside. So it takes you from that layman knowledge and the layman language to actually speaking the language of the profession. Okay, so also Oroluwa, just to add to that, in on your resume as well, if you already have, if you're already working towards getting your certification, put it on your resume too, it's in view. Let them see that you're already doing it, right? So got into the HR profession by having a conversation with my dad's friend. I was still in the university as at that time, and to be honest, I knew that English, I'm not going to be a teacher, you understand, I'm not going to go and teach English. So I'm like, okay. So he had that conversation, what do you want to do after school and whatnot. So we spoke and all, and he opened my eyes to it. And to be honest, I looked at it and I kind of looked at it, okay, this whole thing looks like it fits into my personality as a person. So I'm like, that's the route that I wanted to. But this is just, surface of answering your question. Number two, were there times you felt HR was not for you? If yes, how did you bounce back into committing yourself into it fully? There are times when I felt HR wasn't for me, especially like on my first job. Like it was so frustrating for me, and like it was my employer also contributed to it. But I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to give up because of that person. I'm not going to leave that profession completely. And it's very easy also for you to go online, see what other people are doing, and be intimidated. But rather than being intimidated, get encouraged. If there's anybody you like what they are doing, go on their profile on LinkedIn, check it, look at their profile, look at it, what's on their profile. Can you do your profile, can you add to your profile, what courses have they taken that you can go back to and better yourself. So just being able to push yourself and encourage yourself. And in your HR career path, what's the highest level you can attain or advance to? So you can become a chief human resource officer. You can be at you can be a president of human resources, you can be vice president of human resources. It depends on the organization, how large it is, the organogram, and how much you're able to push yourself. And I've seen that sometimes people who have attained the top of their career, they just, say like, I feel like I'm already there again. Let me just go to another organization, help them out, start from say HR, take on an HR manager role and start again from there, just to say, okay, I've worked in this industry. I want to learn from another industry. Then there's also a book, one or two books that I want to share with. I will also share on that WhatsApp group. One is Dictionary of HR. So you get access to, terminologies and all in HR. Then I'm going to share another one with you that you can read. So thank you very much to everyone who has joined from wherever you have joined. I know this is 2 hours of your time, but you've been able to get clarity on some things in HR. Lastly, I just want to quickly, just before we go off this call, I mentioned to you I mentioned to you that um, this training is organized through Primvry Consulting, and Primary Consulting, it is a full service consulting firm, and our services cuts across personal branding in terms of you want to revamp your resume, cover letter, your LinkedIn, to be able to attract recruiters to reach out to you. Then we also do career coaching, one-on-one career coaching with people. We offer HR services to organizations who want to set up their HR, or they just want that's not what they are into. So they want people that can manage that aspect for them. Then graduate school consulting and application. So this is study abroad for people who want to study abroad, and also we handle that aspect of it for you. We take off the stress of you. So if at any point in time you want to do all of these things, please reach out to us. We are available. Thank you so much for your time. I'm grateful to all of you who have been able to join. And if at any time you have any question and all, please, if you don't want to drop it on the group, please just reach out to me personally. I'm also on the group. I'll be able to answer your question. Thank you so much. It was an amazing 2 hours with you.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
Bye.
you so
welcome.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
God bless you. Bye.